Hey guys, it's Scott. I'm coming here again from Fourth World Comics in Smithtown, New York. I hope you'll stop by. Best store, great guys. They're all over here working for you, setting it up. Here's Zach. You say hi. Terrence, everybody else back there, setting out your books. So come by. So today I was going to talk a little bit about characterization. It's way too big a topic for a 10-minute video, but what I'm going to try and do is what I did with the other ones, where I'm going to look at it through the lens of first issue techniques. So how you think about characterization when you're introducing your series and your protagonist to the world. First, I got nothing to show for today. I got no self-promotional stuff. I just wanted to say thank you. Noctera 5 is outselling 4, which is a rare thing, and above all, I just wanted to say thank you from the whole team, and thank you personally for your enthusiasm for the series, for these videos, for everything. I don't get to say it often enough, but I wake up getting to do my dream job that I've wanted to do since I was a little kid because of all you guys. Capullo always says it best, Brother Greg. He says, you know, we're employed by DC or Marvel or whatever, but we work for you. And the fact that I get to get up every morning and do this crazy thing means the world. So thank you. Okay, characterization. So again, huge topic. Like the other topics I've done, I'm just going to try and look at it through this really pretty narrow lens. I could teach like a whole 2-hour thing on all kinds of characterization, but one of the things to understand is that when you think about sort of your jobs with your first issue, probably in my opinion the most important is establishing the priorities and the voice of your series, what it's about, what you're going for, who you are, who it is. Talked about it in my openings video. The second most important thing is probably this, is introducing your protagonist to the world, right? Characterizing that main figure who's going to go through everything in your book, or figures, you know? Now, there's this big misconception also that I was taught it wrong when I was a kid, and just starting in writing, I had a teacher who was very much like, what you do with characterization is you're showing the reader who your protagonist is in general, you know? So if you're doing something like Batman, show who Batman is right off the bat. Sorry, terrible. But you know, show how awesome he is, show this, show that, show that. In my opinion, that's wrong. So to understand why, one of the things that I'm gonna keep returning to in these videos is character arcs, okay? Now, a character arc, okay, you'll hear it talked about a lot when writers sort of go banter back and forth about storytelling and everything. A character arc is essentially the journey your character takes in relation to the conflict, emotional conflict that they're wrestling with, not plot conflict, all right? So plot conflict, in let's say like Court of Owls, right? Plot conflict is there's this Court of Owls, they're evil, they've been in Gotham for generations, they want to kill Bruce Wayne, and he might have a brother, and all this kind of crazy stuff. The emotional conflict, the character arc, is Bruce Wayne is overconfident when it comes to Gotham, and he needs to understand that to be the best hero he can be, he has to have a sense of humility before Gotham's history. He has to have a sense of smallness, and in doing so, he'll understand Gotham will always be a mystery. There's some things you can't solve, and therefore he will be a better detective for it. Okay, so the emotional arc, or the character arc for Spider-Man isn't he's got to catch this burglar, or he's got to, it's, you know, in that arc it would be he's wrestling with the guilt from Uncle Ben's death. It's not Iron Man needs to go up against you know, Warmonger and whatever. It's Iron Man is wrestling with the idea that he's just a weapons dealer and needs to be a hero. So it's the emotional sort of turmoil your character is dealing with, specifically in this storyline. So in Court of Owls, the way I try to introduce Batman has to do with this, okay? So for example, the idea is, or the basic idea is this: you're not introducing your character in your issue 1 just at a core sense or abstract sense of who they are. You're trying to introduce them to the reader in regard to where they are on their character arc, okay? Who they are in relation to the conflict you're going to be putting them through, or you're having them wrestle with emotionally in that arc, in that storyline, okay? So Batman in Court of Owls, I could have introduced him a number of ways, right? I could have shown him, you know, solving a case. I could have shown him down and fighting. I could have shown him doing the car, all kinds of awesome stuff, because he's, you know, he's incredible. By the way, I have never been asked more times about Batman's like bedroom habits like this than this week, but anyway, we will forget that ever happened. But anyway, Heroes all do that, whatever. The thing with Court of Owls, okay, going back to it, the way I introduce him is to show that he's overconfident, right? So you open with a scene where he's fighting all his villains in Arkham, but he's smiling and he's just like narrating to you, and I'm using narration to show you over the fight. He's not even that worried. He's just telling you about this newspaper article he used to love as a kid that was all about people writing in and sort of guessing or telling their opinions about what Gotham City really is. So it's supposed to show you that whole scene. Batman isn't worried. Batman doesn't care about every single bad guy in Arkham escaping, because he knows how to handle it, because he knows the city back to front, and the narration reinforces that. So all the tools are there to show you where he is on his character arc that I'm going to then kind of undermine, and I'm going to challenge him in relation to as the story goes forward. You see what I'm saying? So characterization in your first issue, again, isn't really about who your character is as much as where they are in their arc, how they're dealing with the problem emotionally that they need to wrestle with and overcome or fail before in the sort of big journey of your story. So, okay, so 2 books I was going to look at today. One, a new creator-owned series. Really love the book. It's Nuclear Family. Again, it's sold out. I gotta say, like, I'm so happy to see indie comics, creator-owned comics, doing so incredibly well right now. It feels like it just feels like I come in and the shelves are constantly, reprints and stuff like that. So I really think, and maybe this is just me, down a rabbit hole in my own mind, but it feels like people love geek culture, love superheroes, have had, such a diet of superhero movies and everything, and superhero TV shows and superhero everything for a while, that now it's almost like that moment we had in the 90s and then again in the 2000s, when you go through these cycles where you kind of have your superhero fix, and then you want to go find things that are your own, and you come back to superheroes back and forth in this kind of cycle. And right now it feels like people are just looking for things that are their own. Books are flying off the shelf. It's great to see all these companies, Image, Vault, Boom, just doing great, and Skybound and Aftershock, and just right and left, just killing it. So anyway, so this book, Aftershock, an Aftershock book, it's called Nuclear Family. Here's the cover. It's sold out, so I got my iPad.
It's dope,
right? The guys here love it too. I'm telling you, Stephanie Phillips, she's doing fantastic work also right now. New voice on Harley Quinn over at DC. Tony Chastain, JD Metler, and it follows this family, the McLean family, and the premise, not giving too much away, is that in 1957, or I think it's 57, they're just going about their business, and the Russians attack with a big nuclear assault. And suddenly they find themselves in an alternate timeline where the U.S. has been at war and kind of is living with the fallout of this giant nuclear holocaust for the last 10 years. So it's now like 1967 or 68, and they've been in these underground bunkers forever, and it's like an alternate timeline. So let's look at the characterization. So it opens with this great kind of sequence showing Sputnik going over the world. It gives you the sense of paranoia, sets the thing. It goes back to everything I was talking about in openings, cold opens, and all that stuff. But then it gets into this scene between Tim McLean and his friend Dan. And I'll describe it more than show it to you here. But essentially, it's they work at a car dealership, and a customer comes in and is like haggling with the main character, Tim McLean, who's the dad of the family, and over a car. And all of a sudden, his friend Dan comes over and is like, "Oh, didn't you know? Sorry, let me handle this. Tim is back from Korea, and he's got that shrapnel in his leg, and he should sit down for a while." And of course, the customer's like, "I was in the infantry. Let me make this deal with you." Buys the car, and then when the customer leaves, Tim's friend Dan, he goes to his friend Dan. He's like, "I don't have shrapnel in my leg. I dealt with radios." And he's like, "Listen," he's like, "So what? You're still traumatized. You're in the war. Blah blah blah." The idea is Tim is a moral, ethical figure. He's someone who's trying to do the right thing in a world that's becoming more and more gray. And the crazy journey they go on that leads to like zombie bunkers and all kinds of cool shit. And it's still going on. It's only 4 issues in right now. 5 comes out next week. Shows this world that's deeply, deeply dark. And he's someone who's trying to keep his family not only together, but essentially good at core. And so introducing him that way shows who he is in relation to the thing he's going to struggle with as circumstances become more and more difficult and more life-threatening and more demanding of compromise, demanding of bad ethical choices as it goes. You see what I'm saying? So great characterization, great book. Can't say enough good things about it. Other book, have to do it. Sweet Tooth on Netflix right now. My buddy Jeff Lemire. I should have done it. I was gonna bring. I'll put it in here, but I was gonna bring this. Jeff's given me art over the years. He's one of my closest friends, and one of my favorite things is a picture he did of Gus meeting Skinner Sweet, and it's like Skinner meets a sweet tooth of a different. Gus meets a sweet tooth of a different kind, and it's great. I will show it to you next time. But Jeff, amazing person, amazing writer, great book. So Sweet Tooth is from Vertigo. We started at the same time. Look at this. So it opens with a dream sequence, right? That Gus has, and he's talking about it, and he says even in his dreams he sees this dark figure, this man, right? Here. The big man, right? He's looking down at me with cold eyes, and he runs and he runs and he runs, but he's chasing him, and no matter how fast he runs, he can't get away from him. And then boom, he wakes up. And it goes through this whole sequence about narration where it talks about how his father, who's sick and dying of this plague that seems to have wiped out most of the world, talks to God and just kind of prays that Gus and he will be safe. The whole opening sequence up to this point shows Gus living in this really claustrophobic, tiny area of the woods with his father. He's never basically seen anyone else. He's never left. And it's all about the fact his mom died when he was young. He didn't really know her. His father says he looks like her. He has seen no living being but his father basically his whole life. And the myth is, his father says, my dad said, and what you learn, by the way, the world is such that all these people have been wiped out by this plague, and then afterwards these kids start getting born that are hybrid animal people kids. And it's so cool. Gus is one of them. He's part deer, as you see. And they're hunted by people. And so they've been living hiding in the woods, he and his father, forever. And he says, my dad says so few kids were born after the accident that God decided to make them special. The accident is the big fire, the big plague that wipes everybody out. He says, I'm the last one left. And outside the trees is fire and hell, so we got to stay here where it's safe. Says the trees stop the fire from burning us forever. And if we wait here and pray hard, one day we'll get to go up to heaven and be with mom. That's what my dad says. That's the whole opening sequence. And then him perfectly caged behind this fence, right? The idea is, Gus, it starts with this dream where he's terrified of leaving, that this man might come after him, right? Then it goes into this claustrophobic idea of how he's never left this place, and it introduces all of these things. But the core aspect to that character introduction, to that opening sequence, is the fear Gus feels about venturing out and finding the truth about the world outside, about himself. And the adventure he goes on, the odyssey, the kids he meets, everything. That's such amazing, the amazing elements in this giant book, and fantastic series that you should read, all have to do with that. It has to do with Gus discovering that he's part of the truth of this world in this bigger way. And so that opening sequence, that the way in which Jeff characterizes Gus, isn't just like Gus is, that you could have shown him what he likes to do for fun. He could have shown him hunting, whatever, to cook with his father. He could have shown anything, but he focuses in on that paranoia and that fear and that claustrophobia, that nightmare, and then into the sequence about how claustrophobic Gus's world is, because that's really the emotional conflict of the first arc and the series. It's about the fear of stepping out of your comfort zone to find a better truth, to find a bigger sense of yourself, to find a home. So much of Jeff's work's about that. Anyway, hope that makes sense. Again, you characterize your protagonist in such a way that you're showing what they're dealing with when you open. And there are all kinds of ways of doing that. Again, I wish I had a lot more time. We could go into how you do it through dialogue, through action, through refractive description, where another character's talking about your character. A million ways to do it, but at core, that's the project. That's what you're trying to do. A couple other books that are amazing that are out. Stillwater comes out this week. So good, by Chip and Ramon, from Skybound. Radiant Black by my buddy Kyle Hagen. Such a good book. Big superhero fun. Radiant Black and Marcelo Costa. Really fantastic image book. Again, Nuclear Family. You got to pick it up. It's out. It's great. Oh, Silver Coin. I love this series by Michael Walsh, artist and writer, and then he has guest people come on and do the story. So it's like an anthology series that follows this demonic silver coin. Chip has done one. Kelly Thompson did a great one. Ram V is doing one. Today is Ed Brisson. So good. Number 3. I'd love to do one day if I can get out from under everything. And that's it. I just thank you again. I love doing these. I hope you enjoy them. Fourth World Comics. Follow them on Twitter, on Instagram. Great shop. Come by. I leave signed stuff here all the time. I'm going to leave some of the Noctera Kickstarter and stuff here for you if you want. But above all, go support your shops. And thank you for supporting comics in general. Best fans always.